Ken, can you see if you can find me a, I think it's over there in the other tool cabinet,
We're live.
Hi, I'm live. Welcome to our Saturday night live on a Friday night. Somebody had a schedule screw up, so. Anyway, we are here, answer your questions. Yeah, you can ask me anything you want, but we always try to have a topic related, in this case, to backsaws. The medium tenon, I just don't have one. I think it's in there. Anyway, we do this to support our Purple Heart project. We just finished class number 38. Our next class will be in April of 2026. Those class schedule, the classes will go on sale tomorrow. So sometime tomorrow, if you watch your internet or watch your email, you'll find out. You'll be able to buy a class. Come visit. My head is confused. Ask me a question, see if I can straighten myself out. Anything, Jake?
Yeah.
Fire away. Once I warm up, I'll be able to tell you why we're here.
When resawing my own veneers on the bandsaw, what's the best way to smooth out the sawn face of the veneer to achieve a uniform thickness without owning a drum set?
So when I do it, I have one side already prepared. So if I was going to slice pieces off of this, I would have this side nice and smooth, hand plane. I go over, I rip it on the bandsaw. That's my side I'm going to glue to. It's nice and smooth. And at least then, and if your bandsaw's, the blade is sharp and everything is set up properly, you should be able, it'll track, and the piece will be the same thickness. Once you've glued it on, now it's a solid piece of wood, and it's a lot easier to get rid of those mill marks. That's the easiest way to do it. Once you've cut it down to, your 1/16 of an inch thickness, or maybe a little more, very difficult to hold on to. If you have to, the problem immediately becomes that it starts to cup and twist. If you have to, before it moves, I take a piece of 1-inch MDF, put sandpaper on it that's got adhesive back, and you can set that stuff on there, that thin veneer, which actually I can even use a piece of this. We've been working with this Macassar ebony. See if I can do it. So I'm going to take a piece of this. It's only, it's not very thick. Put that on there like that and see if I can plane it. Put a bench dog over there. You want that to be grippy enough that it'll hold. Trying to see if there's a direction I should be going. I think this way. Let's get the blade positioned right. I don't know why when I So if you have to plane something really thin, I'm just advancing the blade until I pick up a shaving. Get blade parallel. This will hold it in place. There really isn't any other way you could do it. I suppose you could tape it on, but the problem with taping it on something this thin is there's a good chance you're going to destroy it when you're trying to take the tape off. So you can plane veneer that is measuring, tell you how thick that is. That stuff's only 14 thousandths of an inch thick. Sandpaper's got to be sharp. It's got to have a good bite. So, however, I prefer to plane it before I cut it, glue it on, and then once the piece is adhered to another piece, you can treat it just like any other solid piece of wood. Next to Jake. Frick's not with us tonight. He's, what is it? Where is he?
Bentley's basketball.
Can you be quicker?
I could. It's just that a lot of people didn't adhere to the topic at
That
hand.
don't matter. Give them to me anyway.
No.
Give them to me anyway.
No. I'm prioritizing.
Well, I don't want to sit here and do nothing for...
I've often seen dovetail scribe lines on some of the projects that you show on Training the Hand. Is that the final finish, or is there more?
Or is there what?
More?
Dovetail scribe lines, is that the final finish or is there more?
Wait, sorry, just a sec. Is there more planing to do?
Oh, yeah, I hate scribe lines. I always think they're out of place. They look terrible. I'm trying to see if there's anything here that I could pick up and show as an example, and I don't see anything. So if they're on there either because I neglected to take them off, which doesn't happen very often, or I ended up making them too deep and I couldn't get rid of them. I didn't have enough, I couldn't allow to remove that much material, but I do not like having them. Drawers, they almost always disappear because you purposely leave your drawer sides thick. Well, you don't leave them thick. When you set your marking gauge, when you're doing the drawer sides, you set the marking gauge to be less than the thickness of the drawer side. So when you assemble it, the sides are proud of the ends of the pins front and back, and you plane down to it. So that gets rid of your marks. If I'm doing something where you're gonna see the dovetail in the finished piece, then I usually try to go on the face side very lightly so I can get rid of that mark. So, no, I do not like to see scribe marks. They never look right. They always look like a blemish. My opinion. Nick, next, Jake.
I want to build a bed frame with Tusk joints joining the rails to the headboard/footboard, with the wedges being vertical.
Mm-hmm.
How thick should the tenons be to allow it to be strong enough once the material is removed for the wedge? Probably will be using a softwood for the project.
Well, I think you could still stick to your third rule there. Meaning if you're going to remove material, then make the gap a third of it, the thickness of the piece, and you've got a third on either side. And that leaves your wedge being a third as well, or a third of the overall thickness. So if it was a 3/4 piece coming through, have your mortise cutting in your tenon. Your tenon is going through the mortise, but then you're gonna cut another mortise in the tenon. It's getting complicated. Still go quarter. I think that's third. That's what I meant to say. But in this case, it would be quarter because it was 3/4 material, and I stated that.
I've asked before, but I wasn't lucky enough to get it answered. This is Herbie Grief. Herbie. Over in England.
Ah, Herbie in England.
I've had some success cutting veneers on a bandsaw and gluing them together. Question is, what would you consider an optimum thickness for such veneers?
Well, I would much rather work with, this is the stuff we're working with right now, and it's so thin. I mean, there might be times when you want that, but when you're trying to handle a large sheet of it, there's just not much material there, and it's so easy for it to crack. I would much prefer working with at least 16th inch thick veneer. And I have a bunch. I bought a lot of cherry one time, and it was 16th of an inch, and it was just a joy to work with because it was substantial enough that you could joint it with a plane on a shooting board. You could do a lot of stuff that you just can't do with stuff like this. So I would say, and if you're cutting it yourself, you got to remember the amount of set on your bandsaw is sometimes substantial, and it doesn't take much to, just a little bit of a wiggle, and now all of a sudden you've got those teeth cutting a lot deeper than they would otherwise. So, yeah, I wouldn't want to be any less than a 16th of an inch. Next.
This is from our boy Ralph Sutton.
Big Ralph. Howdy, Ralph. Ralph was here as my assistant back in July.
Yep.
Nobody misbehaved when Ralph was around. What's Ralph, 6'6", 6'5"?
6'12".
6'12".
He asks, why are some backsaws tapered, narrower on the tip and deeper near the handle? Is there a specific reason?
Well, I didn't, okay, just read it again. I was thinking he was talking about hollow ground, but read it again.
Narrower on the tip and deeper near the handle.
Yeah. So the company that I represented one time came out with a saw like that. And I swear, I had read this convoluted story as to why they did it. And I think, oh my goodness, talk about a stretch. When people would file their saws, that often what happened. It just, you ended up maybe a little more pressure on one end than the other when you're doing it. So instead of maintaining the width of this blade all the way down over 30, 40 years of use, it ended up being a little bit narrower down here than it was back here, but I don't think it was ever done intentionally. I certainly can't, I've never read anything that would allude to that, and I can't imagine in working and teaching this how that would possibly be an advantage in any way, shape, or form. So I think it was just a matter of uneven wear during sharpening. Kind of like when you're freehand sharpening a plane blade and you push a little harder, you push harder with the index finger and the middle finger, which would be the right side of the blade. Everybody realizes that. You end up with having an angle on it. So you put this in your vise, and when you start from here, and you're fresh. By the time you get here, you're fatigued. You're probably pushing harder here than you are going to push when you're down to here. Who knows? But I think it was just a matter of an error, not a deliberate act. Ralph. Next, Jake. Next, Jake.
Yeah.
If you're a combat wounded vet that's been to one of our 38 classes and you're on there tonight, Ralph, say something to Ken in the comment section. What do they write in there? It's been so long, can't remember.
At Ken.
At Ken. And
what class are you in?
Tell them your name and what class you were in, and we can give you a shout out. And Ralph just did. Ralph actually came to class. I'm going to guess and say Ralph was here in 2022. And if it wasn't 22, it was 2023. Next, Jake. I'm stalling for you.
Well, I'm ready.
I'm used to Frick. He's
got nothing else to do. I get confused sharpening a crosscut saw. Do you always push the file toward the toe? And do you push toward the tooth on the far side?
Do you push toward the toe? Well, I suppose you can go heel to toe. I don't think that matters. And you're pushing. You're sharpening two faces at the same time, right? You're sharpening the face of one tooth and the back side of the other, but both create the cutting edge. So I would say even pressure. When I'm filing a rip saw, same thing. A rip saw, you've got two surfaces creating one cutting edge. So again, just like a plane blade, cutting edge consists of two surfaces. So you're doing both at the same time, so I don't see why you would apply any more pressure in one direction than versus the other. And have a light touch. What else can I tell you about that? Experiment. But no, I can't think of any reason. I once thought, well, maybe you should file in so that the burr stays inside, not on the outside. But you know what? It doesn't matter. I filed all one side one way and turned around and did the other, and there's absolutely no difference. Whatever you're doing, doesn't matter what you're doing, if you can't at the end of it determine that there's been a valuable improvement, then your time was wasted. So do it whatever makes it easier to do, and just no sense in doing extra work for no reward. Next for Jake.
All right. Are you ready to pay attention?
No.
I am making an
Who's
entry.
asking the question?
This is Gary Nellis in Tillsonburg, Ontario.
Hi, Gary.
I am making an entryway bench where the legs are attached to the seat with a through mortise and tenon at approximately 25 degrees from perpendicular to the seat. Would you cut the through mortise at 90 degrees and adjust the tenon shape so it can insert at 90 degrees? Or would you actually slope the mortise at 25 degrees and just cut the tenon the usual way? And why would you choose one way over the other?
Okay, so when you ask a question like that, it sometimes takes a couple times to sink in. So I think what he's saying is, since it's not going to be a 90-degree approach from one piece onto the next, do you, if it's on an angle, do you cut the tenon to be sloped and maintain a perpendicular mortise, or do you angle the mortise and keep the tenon on the end of the member coming in like this, as opposed to going up like that? So when I did those chairs for that school, I cut the mortises so that they were perpendicular to the face, and I cut the tenons on an angle at the end of the stretcher. It wasn't an extreme angle. It might have only been, I don't know, 12 degrees or something. So it wasn't going to be a short grain issue. And it's a heck of a lot easier to chop your mortise so that it's perpendicular to the face. And that alone would be the reason why I would always try to chop the mortise perpendicular to the face than trying to do that on an angle. Now I think of one other time when I did it. There's the piece, and you're cutting your tenon. You're cutting your tenon on the end of this piece, and it's going to be a real extreme angle, like that. You're weakening this too much. 10, 15 degrees is okay, but you get into 25, 30 degrees, that's too much. I would really worry about that. So preference would be to angle the tenon. If the angle is too extreme, then you're going to have to angle the mortise. Hope that answers your question. And you know what? It's always best to do a sample first and do a mock-up and find out if it works. Stress test it. Stress test it. Worth the time.
Wes Brown in Florida.
Florida. Hi, Wes.
Do you ever have to clean out your shaft and lapping plate? And are you ever worried about cross-contaminating grit from a coarser stone to a finer stone?
And that's just, but I've learned it's a lot smarter to just rinse it well, squirt it 5 or 6 times, and get that slurry out of there. Because if you have to go back in and clean it out, you got to go there and pick it all out, and it takes a long time. And what was the other part?
Cross-contamination.
You know, I've never worried about it, I've never had an issue, but it only makes sense. So here's what I do. When I pick up the lapping plate, I will flatten the 16,000 first, then go to the 1,000. And you might even see once in a while that when I'm sharpening the plane blade, after I leave the 1,000, I'll just give it a quick wipe before I go to the 16,000. There's always an opportunity for cross-contamination, but I sometimes think it's overblown, but it would probably be better that you do pay attention to it somewhat. So lap the fine, then the coarse. When you go from coarse to fine with the blade, just give it a quick wipe somewhere and take any slurry off of it. Next.
Jared from Ontario.
Hey, Jared.
When routing the groove for the lid and back edge on the wood hinge box, is there a specific depth the groove should be? Logically, I am thinking it would be half the diameter of the dowel in both the lid and edge, but I'm not sure if I am missing something.
Yeah, you are just missing just a little. Try to do it half. So he's talking about when you my router bit is sticking up out of the router table, and you're going to see how much you're going to see. You want to see about 49% of it, not 50. Because if you do 50, when you clamp this in place, you're always going to get the joint sprung like that. The lid will be stuck up. So you want a little tiny gap in there. So 49% of it's routing in the bottom, 49% in the top, and that 2% left will just, it'll mean your lid will sit like that a little bit, but it's so small it's indetectable. The only time you see it, if you've seen the other boxes I do where I actually cut the whole lid off, there's always a little bit of a gap in the back, and that's to make sure that it closes on the front. So that's the reason why you want to do that. Next, Jake.
What is the trick?
Trick? We don't have any tricks.
To getting consistently smooth and chatter-free performance when using a Spokeshave on end green. Oh, wait, sorry. Consistently smooth and chatter-free performance when using a Spokeshave on end green.
Well, I'll tell you the reasons why you do get the chatter, and then that makes it really easy to figure out how to avoid it. Too much exposure, meaning you put the blade out too far, and that's actually number 2. Number 1 is not sharp enough. Number 2, you're take off too much. You've got a very small sole, not a lot of control. So sharpen it to within an inch of its life, and then use a light cut, and you'll be able to slice through that no problem. But not sharp enough and too much blade sticking out. Next trick, Jake.
When Bill Trainer from Buckeye, Arizona.
Hi, Bill.
When flattening the sole of a plane, what is the final grit or polish that you recommend? Is there a big difference in performance of the plane with a coarse, say 150 grit, versus super fine 600 grit polish on the sole of the plane?
I taught lots of classes on rehabbing old Stanley planes. I probably did it 200 or 300 times. Wow, I think back. And I found that if you tried to use too coarse a grit, it didn't bite on the metal. 120, 150 was probably ideal. And I've taken them to a high polish, and I don't think it's worth it. I think probably 220 would be plenty. It's going to smooth out with use, but I've never looked at the board and said, oh my, look how rough that is based on how coarse the bottom of the sole was. So take it to 220 and 320 if you've got the paper kicking around, but I don't think I would go to 600. I don't think you're gaining much. And I never did. It worked just fine. But definitely don't try to use 80 grit to remove it. I just found those coarser grits did not, the metal wouldn't bite. I had better luck probably with 150. And by the way, so we do this every second Saturday. We try to maintain a schedule of doing this every second Saturday night. Friday nights when we can't, when Luther's involved, Ken's involved, Jake's involved, I'm involved, Frick's involved. There's a lot of people to sync.
We'll tell them why we couldn't do it tomorrow.
Well, I don't know.
Frank?
What?
It's your father's 90th birthday party.
Oh, yes, my father is 90 tomorrow. That's the reason why we...
Yes,
Yeah.
his party's at 6.
And so they're having a birthday party for him. Can't stay up too late. So that's why. Yes, forgot about that. So we normally do it on every second Saturday night. We do it as a help for people that are looking for answers on how to do just the stuff that we've been talking about. We ask you in return to consider supporting our cause, which is the Purple Heart Project. So 6 times a year, this year it was 7, we bring 7 at a time combat wounded vets from all over the world, and we fly them in to either New Brunswick or Maine, and then get them here to the shop. We have them here for 7 days. The class is 6 days long, and we teach them the fundamental skills of hand tool woodworking, from sharpening to cutting dovetails to cutting mortise and tenons to actually building a little project. And as it turns out that woodworking is very therapeutic for people suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder or dealing with traumatic brain injuries, or just searching for a purpose after a life of meaningful service in the military, and all of a sudden you have nothing to do and leaves people in disarray. So what we started as just a distractive therapy, somebody named it after we started, has turned out to be an income for a lot of these guys. So that's why we're trying to take it beyond just the beginning class and offer people the opportunity to come back for an advanced class. But it takes money. So if you can find it in your heart to help us, what we really would ask is that you sign up for a recurring donation. That's a monthly donation that's automatic, comes out of your whatever method of payment you're using. Details are online. And what the advantage of that versus a one-time gift is because it helps us plan when we know, okay, we've accumulated X number of dollars every month. So what we need to budget for. And last year's, actually, I don't know what last year was, but 2024, the cost was $350,000 US for the 6 classes we did. So I don't know what the tally is yet on this year, but I'm sure it didn't go down. So anyway, thanks for your help. Is there anyone want to say hello to Ken? Luther on tonight?
Just get on now.
Ken,
Late.
that mic up there on the camera.
Can you hear him? Or do you want him to take it off?
No, it's fine.
Because
You can just speak right
he just moved the camera.
Turn
There you
it-
go.
there
You're still front and center, don't worry. I get your best side. Mike Delvoi's on,
Hey, Mike.
Jeff O'Connor,
Jeffrey.
Casper,
Casper, way over in Denmark. Our Great Dane.
Casper's been here twice, right?
Yeah, Casper came as our first Danish wounded vet, and then he came back to be my assistant in
25.
I think it was
Yeah.
April.
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 Yeah, because it was still chilly.
Yeah,
And Ralph Sutton, as you know, is
Ralph.
Chris Shannon.
Oh, Chris, yeah. Yeah. What year was Chris? He was this year, wasn't he?
October.
Yeah. Duh.
John Beck.
Oh, Chris, right up front.
John Beck, June 22.
Hey, John, Vietnam.
Brent Nelson's on.
Brent is sits on the board now of PHP, any of you wounded vets that have been in the program that would like to participate as volunteer, we always need volunteers. The workload is huge and it's too much for just a few people.
And Dom, 2024.
Dom, just here. Dom was a wounded Marine EOD.
Kevin Samaria also just signed on.
Hey Kev, how you doing, bud? Kev was here in 2019?
No, 17.
17. Way back. He's really old. That's Kev's flag right there. All right. Good to see you, gentlemen. Or good to know you're there. I can't see you, but...
This one's from Rafael Mejares,
Hey, Rafael.
Mexico City.
Mexico.
Hola, Rob.
Hola.
I just purchased my first set of fine chisels. Nerex Richter, set of 5. I also purchased your sharpening kit some months ago. My question is it enough if I just build a secondary bevel in my new chisels? Or do I need to do anything else? The information that came with the chisels say the back doesn't need to be flattened since it is factory flattened to a very high specification. What is your recommendation?
Yeah, ignore that. Just write the author and say, please send me some pictures of your most current work so I can determine whether or not you know what you're talking about. It really drives me. Yes, you got to do the backs. I can guarantee that if you look at them, they probably rounded over the corners, which when you go to the actual edge of the chisel, you no longer have a sharp corner.
They are polished, though.
Yeah, they're polished. They're just not done right.
They're not flat, they're polished.
You want them, yeah, you don't polish with a buffer. It has to be done on a flat stone. So yes, you want to go through and do the backs. Another company that I used to represent, they wanted to do extra steps on the sharpening process. And both David Charlesworth and myself said, no, you just give us what you do and we'll do what we do. It's like, I try to use the example like buying a rifle and expecting the store to sight it in for you. Well, they may get it close, but if you're a marksman, you're going to go in and you want to do that yourself. Same thing, if you're a craftsman, you want the kind of control over the cutting edge that only you know how to put on. That way there's no one to blame. So no, if they come to you, they should come to you flattened off of their grinder, and then your job is to remove the mill marks, grinding marks. But you buy some of these brands and they're not even close to being flat, and you've got to go in and flatten and then work through the various grits to polish it. So I would redo the backs, make sure the backs are flat and highly polished to your standards. And then when it comes to the bevel, we do primary on the bench grinder, secondary and tertiary. And the tertiary just speeds up the whole process. It's just a couple of degrees in the very final stone that means you can sharpen your chisel in 10 seconds. Next, Jake.
I don't have a name for this one, but recently their saw stopped 3 horsepower using a Freud thin kerf blade cutting a piece of tiger wood. He read on the internet that saw stops struggle with thin blades. Have you had this happen?
No, never.
Never ever. I've
never ever. And we've been running thin blades for probably 10 years or more. I like them. Less waste, less torque required by the saw because you're removing less wood. So I've never had an issue with thin blades on my saw stop. And we have 3 saw stops being used, so no issues. And I don't think we're unique. Yeah. Next, Jake.
Hey Rob, Paul here from Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Hi, Paul. I used to live in, what?
Where did you used to live?
I used to live near Wyoming. I was in Utah.
When shooting pine at 45 degrees, I get a burr-like protrusion at the end of the piece I'm shooting.
Yeah, that's
it
common.
causes the planed side to bow against the plane.
You want to run that one by me
Well,
again?
I'm not tracking either. It causes the planed side to bow against the plane.
Try that. Try rephrasing that because neither one.
That
of
was
us-
from the chat, so Paul should still be on.
Yeah, if you're on there, Paul, just restate that a little different way because we're neither one of us are understanding what you actually mean. Could we ever do these audio where people actually
No.
ask it? Huh?
No.
Okay.
Call in, do a call in, you mean?
Yeah. Next. Sorry, Paul, just couldn't wrap my head around that one, but try again.
Okay. I have Rob's dovetail, crosscut, and small dovetail, and the rip saw. What else should I get?
Oh, stop, hold the press. Let's get this guy's question answered. Run it by me again, Jake.
Okay.
Which one, the small one, does he have?
Small dovetail.
Small dovetail. So the 3/4 saw.
3/4 dovetail.
Hold on. I'm going to lay them all out here. We don't get sales questions like this very often. Small dovetail, yeah.
Regular dovetail.
Regular dovetail.
And I assume when he says crosscut, he means
Joinery crosscut.
And the rip saw, which I also assume is a hand saw.
And the rip saw. And the question is, what's next?
What else should he get?
I would probably get the crosscut.
Which one? Oh, the hand saw.
Yeah, the handsaw crosscut saw. And if you want to know one beyond that, I would get that, and then the medium tenon. And then I would probably buy the small crosscut, the 3/4 crosscut, which is a really nice saw because it's so light and so small. You can get in and do some really close work. I'd probably get that, and then the regular tenon, and then the medium tenon. The bench crosscut. And stay tuned for another saw coming soon.
Perfect. That was outside of the frame.
Huh?
This is the third time this has been asked, so I'm going to ask it.
Third time tonight.
What is Rob's opinion of Veritas hand tools? You don't need to answer in detail. You can just answer how we usually
I don't
answer.
have any. What's that tell you? I find other brands that I like a whole lot more. So I have not found, well aware of them. I have never found a use or a reason to own one. And I guess I can leave it at that.
Okay. Question for Rob regarding dovetail saws.
And by the way, just hold on before you do that. So Chris was here today, Chris Davenport. He's our engineer. And Chris spent the best part of 2+ months in the hospital. He's now back he's still going to therapy, but he's back working full time. We came down today and had a meeting on some of the stuff he's working on. So your plane is getting a lot closer. How's that? Best update we can do. We've lost probably 4 or 5 months. Chris ended up in the hospital, and the same time Bo died, early part of June. So it's been 5 months. He's just now coming back to work. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I got clarification from
Of Paul?
Paul.
All right, let's try it again.
He said the burr prevents me from getting an accurate 45 degrees when shooting.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that his fence is really close to the plane, and so that little whisper of wood is being allowed to get behind his fence, and it's holding his.
Are you?
piece
So
up.
which miter is he? Which is
No,
he
no,
using?
flat miter.
Flat miter?
Yeah.
So here's your flat miter. And you've got your fence on its, your plane on its side. And you're shooting your piece. And I assume the burr is coming at the end.
Yeah.
And that is preventing his, that's preventing his board.
Yes.
Well, cut this back a little bit. Right?
Not even, it doesn't even have to be the whole thing. You can literally just take off that inside corner a bit.
If you were to shave that down a little bit, you'd have to do it with a chisel. And then that would give you that little bit of room for that little bit of shaving that's going in there. I think that's what you're talking about. I typically have that held back, especially on a 45. You're not having to support fibers like you would on a 90 degree. And you're going to cut into it sooner or later anyway. So that's what I would do, is just cut your fence back a little bit so it doesn't touch the sole of the plane. And then your that little burr, that little whisper of wood that ends up right at the end of the miter won't end up being a problem. I think that'd be a quick fix. Next, Jake.
So again, this is regarding dovetail saws. What are some tricks you would recommend for removing surface rust from saw blade?
Surface rust from saw blades? Well, the best thing to do is to, how much are these, Ken? Yeah.
I think they're $5.99.
Can you turn the camera a little bit over here? Not that I always want to be the center of attention, but they need to see it. So this is called a hand block, or if you talk to Luther, it's called a Sandiflex. It's a rubber compound that has silicon carbide abrasive all the way through it. So it's not like a sandpaper where you just wear off the surface. And you can go in and clean up metal, bronze, anything. And it does the best job, and it's fast. So this is an old blade. Now, can you see that, what that's happened, what's done? Does that show?
Yep.
It's quick. So it comes in 3 different abrasives. They come in a little cardboard sleeve. The green one is the one you want. There's 2 others. There's a red one and a yellow. The yellow is fine, and that would make a shiny spot. The red is coarse, that would make a rough spot, and the green seems to blend in with the typical finish on woodworking tools. So get one of those and live happily ever after. Next, Jake.
I finally got a drill press in my shop, a variable speed King Canada.
A variable speed what?
King Canada.
Oh yeah.
I'm not happy with the runout on the chuck. Do you have a preference on an affordable alternative? This guy's in Ontario, obviously.
Yeah, find yourself, just watch Facebook Marketplace. They're on there all the time. Get a general. Huh? Yeah, there's certain brands that are, it's like they build it around the cost. It said this is going to be a $200 machine. So everything we do has to be aimed at keeping that under $200, and that means cheap. And I don't know if General did this, but they built the machine and then priced it. And of course, it's more expensive than the others, but you get what you pay for. Fortunately, that company went out of business, I think, in 2015. So you can only buy used machines, but there's a lot of people that are now retiring or no longer woodworking, and that stuff just keeps showing up on Facebook Marketplace all the time, and you can usually buy them for $300 or $400. And they all have run out, but far less. And that was the reason why I never buy new equipment. I always buy old stuff, because they made it so much better. Now you may have to change the bearings in it, but that's not a big deal. That's not a huge job. Next, Jake.
What's the biggest backsaw depth of cut? And are they consistent teeth per inch?
Are you talking about ours?
I don't know what he means with that last question, but You could answer it in both ways.
So the largest saw that we make as a backsaw has a depth of cut of 2 3/4 inches. And the teeth are extremely precise, and there is no variation in the set. They'll be spot on. Next.
We're up to $1,000 of donations.
Oh, good. And new recurring?
Just total.
Total? Okay, well,
No recurring ones yet.
no recurring ones. We kind of got off that bandwagon. We'll give away a prize tonight. Nice $300 prize. Next, Jake.
When you are resawing,
Ken, when you get 3 or 4 more people to say hello to, let me know.
Yeah.
when you are resawing to veneer onto a substrate, is there a maximum thickness that veneer can be before it may affect stability of the glue?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have no idea. That plywood flies in the face of everything we do, right? You know, we always avoid cross-grain construction because the woods, you can't restrict the movement, and yet plywood is literally made. It's all cross-grain construction. At what point do you run into problem? I do not know. I would think, I can't remember this being addressed in Bruce Hoadley's book, Understanding Wood, but I'll bet you it is. And that's a reference book that every woodworker should have. I'm going to say 1/16 of an inch. I would feel safe on a 1/16 of an inch. 1/8 of an inch, I think I would start to be concerned. But I don't ever recall having a problem. And I use MDF as a substrate whenever I can because it's such a nice stable wood. Now I built that standing desk that's upstairs, and we built the top of it is made out of 1-inch MDF. That's how wide is that, Jake? 18 inches?
Yeah, about 8.
And that's got 16th inch veneer. Never had a problem. The lid on that same. The lifting lid is made out of 1/2-inch MDF, and it's got 16th inch veneer on both sides, never had an issue. So I can say confidently, no problem with 1/16 of an inch. Where you're gonna run into a problem, don't know. Do not know. Love to find out what you find out. Next.
Any advice, please, Rob, to make mortises in very soft wood? They always end larger than drawn.
Okay, so you're chopping mortises in soft wood, and they end up larger than they're drawn. Well, the easiest way to do it, especially if it's something that you don't do a lot, is to take your mortise. You have to have good mortise chisels. So buy ours, then you don't have to worry about that. The mortise chisel has to be square all the way around, and so many of them aren't. Polish the back so that it makes that edge right there nice and sharp, or this edge right here, which one's doing the cutting? Actually, it's this one that does the cutting, because as you're chopping it in like that, the bevel's sliding it forward, and these leading edges are actually severing the fibers. But when you do it, put a block of a reference block that is square. Let me explain. So if this is my gauge block, I want to make sure that that edge is square, and I would clamp it, and I would turn this around so I could see it. I would clamp it, and the way to clamp it accurately is to take your marking gauge and use that as a reference, so I know for a fact that my fence is parallel to the mortise, right? Because I laid out my mortise with this. Clamp that in place. May as well do it. And hold it securely. Now, as I mentioned, I'm doing this backwards because I would have this facing me. And you've got your mortise laid out. See See if I can make a mark great enough that you can see. There's the edge of my mortise. Draw a guide line on your guide block, and now holding this chisel against the face of your guide block, you'll end up with a mortise that has nice parallel sides and everything will just be hunky-dory. So that is the most accurate way to chop your mortise and to keep it from getting wider than you want. It also makes sure that the side walls of the mortise remain perpendicular to the face, which is also something you want. Careful when you're prying the fibers out of there. You don't allow it to twist, so just push it with your palm and let the mortise guide the chisel, just like operating the bolt on a rifle. And when you're done, here, let me go a little bit further and then I'll actually show it to you. I would actually make this guide block out of a piece of hardwood. Pine, which is what this one is, gets chewed up easily. Right, now take this off. Jake, is that her? Ken, can you? I'll bring it over to you.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to just get rid of some of those chips in the bottom. You notice I grabbed a narrower chisel. And the reason is, if you use this chisel, it fits very snugly in there. And when you're trying to pry stuff out, it's just a little more work than what it needs to be. So grab a narrower mortise chisel and you can take those pieces out without... Jake, tell me if you can see in there.
Up. Yeah. Are the walls sloped?
No.
Oh, you haven't finished chopping.
Yeah. I just wanted to show you the sidewalls. Nice, it's nice and clean, if you can see in there. That's the best way to do it. But you need good mortise chisels, and most of them aren't. Shoot, you take your square with you when you go shopping, and when you put your square on that back and then come along the side, that should be square. If it's not square, you can't do that, because now when you go to hold the block, you're actually holding your chisel like this and it's going off on an angle away from the guide face of your block. Next, Jake. And we sell mortise chisels, 3/16, quarter, 5/16, 3/8, 7/16, and half. And by the way, somebody, actually wasn't it Darren? Darren over in the UK? Said we need to do a video on how do you chop a wider mortise, a mortise that is wider than you have chisels. So the idea being, if you want a 1/2-inch mortise, you use a 1/2-inch mortise chisel. This guides everything. But what do you do if you need to chop a 5/8? So we'll do a video on that and I'll show you how.
All right, can you give me any advice on setting up a number 62 low-angle plane? I'm not real experienced with hand planes, just looking for some good advice. Give them the best advice you can.
What, a 62, which is a low-angle jack, which is not my favorite, so
So what should he do?
take it back
Next question.
Take it back and buy a 5.5. And you don't want to hear that, but the 62 doesn't have as much surface area on the wall, on the side for when you're shooting. The whole low angle approach, I think, is a bunch of malarkey. The adjuster knob is way down underneath, hard to get at. The very history of that plane, when Stanley made them, they didn't sell very many, and they didn't make them for very long because they weren't popular. When guys that actually used these things for a living had the option, they stuck with the bench plane, the bevel down bench plane, not the bevel up. Now, that aside, the question was, ask me again, Jake. Read it again for me, please.
He just wants to know how to set up a 62.
So I don't know what brand it is, but if it's a decent brand, you shouldn't have to do anything to the actual plane. So now, and there's no chip breaker, so all you have to do is the blade. So what you're going to do with the blade is you're going to put on a Charlesworth ruler trick on the back. That means that you're going, instead of having to go in and flatten and polish the back, you're going to elevate it with a little steel rule. I have a video called 32 Seconds to Sharp. No, that's not it. If you go on my channel, RobCosman.com, you'll find lots of videos that talk about preparing a plane blade. So what you're going to do, see if I can show it to you. I'm reaching for my glasses. What you are going to do, I have 5 million plane blades sitting here. Here's one. We just finished our last class and stuff hasn't been put away since. So here's an example. Here's a plane blade that was not perfectly flat on the back. And you can see, because of that, there's a little polished strip that goes from there over to here, and it gets really thin down here. So there was some twist in this blade. If I laid that on a flat piece of steel, you could see how that would twist corner to corner. So instead of having to go through and flatten and polish all of this in order to use that, David Charlesworth came up with this idea whereby you take, here. Oh, we got to tell them the good news. You take your stone and you set a steel rule. Now Jake came up with this idea to hold the steel rule in place. We now sell them with a little fold on the end. So you can hook it on there like that and pull on this side so it stays put. So you keep that blade flush with this side. You set your new plane blade on the stone so that the opposite edge stays within 1/4 of an inch of the opposite edge. Elevated, as you can see, less than a degree. And you go and you move that forth and back, keeping it within 1/4 of an inch. Don't come in like this. And you'll eventually get a little polished strip that runs corner to corner. Doesn't matter if the back's flat or not, as long as you have an uninterrupted polished strip that goes corner to corner. And that, you start on the 1000. Once you get that polished strip, then you're going to take the polished strip up to the 16,000. And that just means going to this finer stone, same steel rule, same edge of the stone, set it down there, and just do it until it's polished. And then you're done. You don't do anything to the back. Then all you have to do is just polish do your secondary and your tertiary bevel. That's under the 32 seconds to sharp video. And that's all you should have to do with that plane. But I really don't like it. And if I had you in my class and you tried that one versus a 5.5, I think I could convince you that 5.5 is the plane you want. And again, I just say, hey, what did they do historically? What did they do when these planes were introduced to a professional market? So I harp on that because who are we presenting planes to today? A bunch of hobbyists. And the average guy out there probably doesn't know how to set up and tune and sharpen his plane. So his opinion is limited by his experience. 100 years ago, when 20% of the population worked wood for a living and people used hand planes every day professionally, they knew how to sharpen and use the plane. So if you gave them something new, they could evaluate it based on years of experience. And they said, no thanks. So, That's it.
Okay, I'm about to do a class on using hand tools in modern construction. I'm focusing on hand planes, and thank you for that. But do you have a recommendation on hand saws?
You could be a little louder. I can barely hear you.
You might be able to barely hear me, but I'm speaking right into the mic.
A recommendation on hand saws? Yeah. We started making actual hand. Ken, would you mind grabbing me a crosscut off the wall over there, please?
Off the wall.
In the classroom.
Oh, over there. Yeah, I've got a rip here. So we spent the best part of 3 or 4 years, I can't remember, developing these. And the reason is, your options were to go out and buy one in the hardware store, which has induction hardened teeth, which means it's the cheapest possible saw you could ever find. The teeth are filed, sharpened, and then hardened electronically, and you don't ever sharpen them again because the metal is harder than your file, so they're designed to be tossed when they're no longer usable. They have very uncomfortable handles, and there's just nothing, thank you, had no saving grace. Lee Nielsen made saws only for a short period of time and stopped making them. I don't know why. I have a couple. And there's a couple of other boutique saw makers, but their waiting list is like 6 months long. So we decided to make hand saws specifically for stable furniture grade, dry, hard, and soft wood. And that means very narrow set, just 3/1000 of an inch per side. Most hand saws you're going to buy, you're going to give you a big wide kerf because they're designed to work in somewhat higher moisture content woods, which have a tendency to close as you start to cut them. And that big wide kerf ends up giving you a real sloppy fit, and the saw is wobbling back and forth, and you've got this line all over the place. With a very narrow set, these things track, and they will cut straight as an arrow, doesn't matter how much experience you have or do not have. So our crosscut has 9 points, or 9 teeth per inch, 3/1000 set per side. Our rip has 7 points per inch, or teeth per inch, same set, 3/1000 of an inch. The blades measure, the usable part of the blade is, well, the blade's 22 inches long, but under the handle, you're going to get about 20 inches. Same on both. Handles are made out of a wood fiber and resin composite. It's impervious to moisture, it's strong, feels really good in the hand. It's securely held in place. Ian, our saw maker, makes these. Every week he makes them. And they're exactly what I wanted, and happy to have them, happy to share them. Now, if I had my saw bench here, I would demonstrate it, but the place is a mess. We haven't cleaned up since the last class, and we're trying to get caught up on filming. When Ken comes back, I'll bring the saw bench over, and I'll do a little test cut for you and show you what I mean. So this is what I would recommend.
Okay, while you're talking about those handles, why are your Backsaw handles 25 mil thick, 1 inch, and the panel saws are thinner at 22 mil?
You know what? That was more of an aesthetic thing. I started making saws in 2008. We now make 9 different saws, soon to be 11. And we got to a point where I think we were good enough at it that we could start to. Ken, would you do me a favor? Would you grab that saw bench? Bring me in a saw bench that I can just use to demonstrate that. There should be one of those ones that Darren made right there somewhere. When people learn to cut dovetails, the first thing they learn and get all Twitter paid over is how tight it fits. And then once you get past that, you start to stand back and say, yeah, but you know what? The tails are a little bit too fat or a little bit too thin, and you start to work on the aesthetics. So I had used this. We made the first handle out of 1 inch material, and I just thought, that just looks a little bit clunky. So we buy this stuff in 1 inch thickness, so we started to take it down, and we got to a point where it felt really good in the hand, and it looked better, so we went with it. So that's no other reason, strictly aesthetics. So I'm going to take a piece of this dry pine.
And you're going to need to turn it down.
Here, let's, can you get me right here?
Yep.
Now, these have been used by all 8 classes, so I'll take this crosscut. I'm going to strike a line. Did you bring me out that bag for me to
Yeah.
mention?
Because he should have it if he's talking construction.
If he's what?
If he's talking about using these in construction, he should have them.
So, there's a line. Put my glasses on so I can see. I don't have to feel my way through it. Thank you, Darren, over in the UK for making these benches for us. So, start, stroke. So it's starting to bow out a little bit, but if I push it in there, it's nice straight cut. Sails through, just beautiful, feels great. Love using them. Sharp hand plane is the most fun to use, but a nice, balanced, sharp hand saw is a close second. So this is our saw case. And this is made out of VCI, Vapor Corrosion Inhibitor. Company that does military grade material, does stuff, makes it for us. And you hear this crinkly stuff? So in between there's a layer of this VCI. And apparently, when the metal's in there and you close it up, these molecules, Jake, somehow create a barrier in the steel between the steel and moisture. And it prevents it from rusting. And there's nothing to wipe off, nothing to wipe on. It doesn't seem to ever wear out. And as hokey as that story sounds, we tested these by sending, we have chisel rolls as well. So we filled up the chisel roll with chisels, sent it down to one of our vets in Florida, and have had him leave it outside, not in the rain, under cover, but outside for how long, Jake?
About a month.
About a month. Got it back, not a hint of rust. And Luther had a cover, Luther's shop in Roy, Washington, if you're talking to him, which is second dampest place on earth. And his shop wasn't climate controlled at all, and he had a saw stop out there. And he had a cover made out of this VCI, and he just went over the top. And when he was done, he would sit over there, and he'd come back a month or 2 months later, I don't know how long he'd been away, take it off, and not a spot of rust. So you set it into this piece of plastic just keeps from cutting the material. You set that in there like so, and then you zip it up. All the material is good heavy duty. And that little tag, you can write on there what saw is in there, so you don't have to go tearing through all the cases to find the saw that you want. Money to protect your investment. And saw blades are thin, and it doesn't take long to pit them with rust. So
Hi, Rob. Thank you for having your sessions. MDF in furniture construction. When to use it and when to not. What types of joints to be used.
okay, you're going to have to read it again because I didn't hear the whole thing.
MDF in furniture construction. When to use it and when to not. What types of joints to use.
Well, first of all, what you need to know, I'm going to sit down. My knee's a little sore. So I don't know how long ago, I'm guessing it's within the last 10 years, they developed water-resistant MDF that can be used. It was actually designed for outdoor signs, so you know it's water-resistant. We found out about it. That's what we make our benches out of. Regular MDF exposed to moisture turns into wet sawdust, just gets destroyed. And even though you can dry it out, it loses all of its ability to stay together. And we tested this. We did a YouTube on this. And the water resistant swelled a little bit, but when it dried out, it went right back to normal. So I don't ever, in a piece of furniture, I would never want to see any part of the MDF. I would never want to see the bare edge, the face, none of it. But as far as its use, anywhere you need stability, meaning you've got a large piece that you do not want it to move in length or width, you don't want it to cup or bow, that I always use. I never use plywood underneath, I always use MDF. So if you look behind me, these doors, everything on my bench and my tool cabinet is mahogany and bird's eye. So I have a mahogany panel framed in bird's eye. Well, in order to do that, this can't be solid stock because it would blow apart these miters. So it's a piece of 5/8 MDF that's got mahogany on front and back, and then banded with bird's eye maple. Great place for it. Keeps the door nice and flat and stable. The desk, we're building this desk. Here's a picture of it, or here's a model of it over here. I guess the camera didn't follow me on that one. This desk is being made out of, what's that thickness, Jake? 1.25 inches?
I think it's 1.5 inches.
It is. 1.5 inches thick, talk about heavy. 1.5 inches thick MDF. It's going to be encased in fiddleback ash. So what I've done, so much junk in here. Promise next time we broadcast, I'll have this all cleaned up. I'll get Andrew in here, he's my helper. So here's the 1.5 inch MDF. I've got a solid piece of ash, 2.5 inches of ash glued on the end. And I actually ran some dowels in there to help strengthen it. I'll tell you why in a moment. And then I've got 1/2 inch MDF, 1/2 inch ash running down both sides. It'll be sandwiched. This is going to be, this is the tabletop, and the leg's going to come up, over, and down. It's going to be a miter on here, so that's why the solid wood. And when that'll be veneered, it'll be nice and stable, extremely heavy, but stability. Again, stability. I don't want the MDF touching the ground, so even this piece is going to have solid wood all the way around. So that's when you use it. And I've made boxes, some of those wood hinge boxes that I make. If the lid is wide, if I go over 3 inches in width, then you're going to get into issues where solid wood is going to move on you and the fit's not going to be right seasonally. So in those circumstances, I will often use 1/4 inch MDF and band it all the way around, sandwich it between 2 pieces of veneer, and that'll become my lid, and that gives you a nice stable lid. So anytime you have to have stability, dimensional stability, and you're not worried about weight, use MDF. And Alan Peters did, and he was my mentor. So, and that was back in the 70s and 80s, and it's only gotten better. Check out find the water resistant stuff, because I don't know why anybody would ever use MDF, regular MDF. By the way, it's also, I think, 3 times stronger than regular MDF, and only about, at the most, 15% more expensive. So, superior product by a long shot. Any more vets to say hello to, Ken? No? Next, Jake?
How does Rob align board when marking tails on the pins board? Seems hard to get them squared.
Say it again.
How does Rob align the tail board when marking tails on the pin board? Seems hard to get them squared.
Oh, well, that's actually easy. And what do we just, we just did show you. I had a friend that just died last Saturday, and he'd asked me to make his casket, but there was some confusion with his daughter, who's the executor of the estate, so it never got finished. So here I'm cutting dovetails. He wasn't a real big guy. That was going to be the end. So I had my big, huge tailboard sitting on top of there, and it had to be perfectly aligned, and I just used the tape. So if you're not familiar with what I just said, what I did on the tailboard is I put 5 layers of yellow masking tape. Ken's son alerted us to that several years ago, and we sell a ton of it because I just use it for so many things. And what's unique about the tape is it's thicker and stickier than most other masking tapes. So you put multiple layers on there. I typically use the 1-inch stuff, not this. Just build it up. On a dovetail this size, I would use 4 pieces, which is going to give you a little wall that will be 20/1000 of an inch thick. So you make sure that that's on there, stuck on well. And then you use your knife to trim the edges, like so. And then you use your marking gauge. And your marking gauge, you're going to, right along the base of your tails, you're going to cut through it. And you peel that top piece off. And that gives you a little tape wall. So now when it comes time, if this is your tailboard, to sit on top of your pin board to align the 2 pieces, you set that on there until that little wall comes up against the inside. Let me go a step further. This will allow me to sell you something, which you'll thank me for.
Fred says we're up 2,000 in donations.
Really? Thank you, folks. Keep going. You're doing well. So this is called my my dovetail square. One of my latest inventions, and it's just a dandy. So this slides. You set it so that this has a round edge right here and a square edge on this side. The square edge sits on your plane. You push this down. Should I actually go through and show you everything? I guess that would make sense, wouldn't it? So you loosen these. Depending on the plane you're using, you're going to set it like that and then push it down until it touches. And now tighten it up. And snug it up well. Check it. You want to make sure that this distance from there to there is the width of your plane. Now, when you put your board in the vise, you want it to be standing plumb. Why? Because you're training yourself to be able to cut plumb or angle just by feel alone. That means the piece you're working on has to be standing plumb. So you put the board in there like this. Set it in there, one hand, lock it, now it's standing plumb. You don't have to get in there with a square. Go ahead and make all of your cuts. Then when it comes to transferring tails to pins, you're going to take your pin board, do the same thing, set it like this, put it in place, put your plane back here. Now, if you had your, normally I would have, I'll peel it off and put it on there. That little tape trick, you do that with your, you do that on your tailboard, not your pin board. So that would have been put on there. I would have verified it with my marking gauge so that that was right at the baseline of my tails. Now I set that on there like that, pull it up so that it perfectly aligns the 2 pieces. It allows me to move a little bit left or right when I'm using my Sean shim. Hold that firmly and go ahead and drag my dovetail marking knife. In case you don't know, Sean McDermott, this was his idea. We turned it into a product, named it after him, pay him a royalty, set it like that, move it in place. That offsets you by the thickness of one saw kerf. Hold it firmly and take your dovetail marking knife and reach down through there and drag that knife through the pin board, the tape wall, the pressure here, the setup, the little bridge we have keeps that perfectly positioned so that when you're done, instead of trying to saw beside a knife line, you simply put the saw in that kerf and go ahead and finish your cut. Couldn't be any simpler, couldn't be any more accurate. Your dovetail square, pick one up today.
Okay. Do you guys still use and recommend PEC tools for combo/machinist squares?
Oh,
Almost all my tools got stolen along with the precision tools. Starrett, Brown and Sharp, so on. I'm starting over.
you know, that's a disappointing story. We found out about them, how many years ago, Jake?
Ooh, PEC.
Yeah.
Oh, 10? 10 years?
I think it's more than that. Anyway, it's been a while. American-made stuff out of California. We started off selling a little, we sold a lot. And we were having such issues. Ken's here, and he was the guy that was doing a lot of the checking, so I'm going to ask him. For every 10 6-inch combination squares, so there's what I'm talking about. And you know what? I'm not doing this to badmouth anybody. I'm telling you the truth. And we gave them every opportunity, and nothing improved. For every 10 of these that we got in, Ken, how many would be rejected?
Depending on the batch.
What was the worst? What was the best?
All 10 out of 10 on some of them.
Yeah. You couldn't tighten them, or they would tighten them this end, but they wouldn't tighten on that end. They were out of square. It was just a disaster. And as we begged them, fix the problem, and they wouldn't fix the problem. So we don't sell them anymore. Now, we switched to Starrett. So we got a distributorship for Starrett. That wasn't easy. These are made in Massachusetts, I believe. We thought, oh, great, now no problems. Jake, in that first batch of 6-inch combination Starrett squares that we got out of 10, how many were bad?
8.4.
So they guarantee that is going to be, that on the 6-inch square, extended like that, that's going to be within 1/1000th of an inch. And the worst ones were out 19 thou. And we complained, sent them back. They said, send them back, we'll fix them. They sent the same 50 back to us, and 30 of them failed. It's like, what is going on? So their excuse to me when we got them on the phone was, all our good old employees left at the beginning of the illegal lockdowns, and now we can't find reliable employees. I said, but you're still stating your tolerances that you're not maintaining. So that's the bad news. The good news is every one that we sell comes out of the box, actually it's probably Brandon now, on our reference plate with really good calibrating tools, goes over and verifies that it's right, or it goes back to them. So if you buy it from us, somewhere on there you'll see our initials where it's been checked. So, wow.
Okay,
How
real
the
quick.
mighty have fallen.
Oh, Jay Levy is on. I don't know if Ken
Jay,
mentioned him.
Danny Bell's on too.
Oh, Danny Bell. Jay Levy, that name rings familiar. When was
Danny.
Jay here?
That's a good question. I feel like he was here in May.
Yeah. Howdy, Jay. And Danny Bell, I have to talk about Danny Bell for a minute because...
I think Jay was here in July with me.
Was he?
Poor guy.
Yeah. So Danny Bell has got one of the most captivating stories. I'm not going to share that with you, but Danny, aside from being a professional breakdancer, flew Chinook helicopters for the 160th. Special Forces. And Danny had all the typical medical problems associated with combat. But Danny ended up, Jake and I and Super Dave went down to help Danny launch his lumber business down in Clarksville, Tennessee. There's some great stories that come out of that. Felix the cat. Anyway, Danny then ended up moved to Maine, so he was a lot closer. So he came up here to be my assistant multiple times. Really good friend, great guy, good family. And he's now back in, is he in Kentucky?
He's back in Tennessee, isn't he?
He was always on the border anyway.
Yeah, he's on the border. Kentucky. Anyway, just a great guy. Great, great guy. So big shout out to you, Danny Bell, and the family.
I've heard you comment on using the 10 1/4 plane on the inside of a case to help fit a drawer instead of sandpaper on a stick.
Yeah.
How is this done?
Well, I'm going to have to do it, actually. We're on this drawer box that we're building. Somehow, I cannot for the life of me figure out why on the bottom drawer we've got a hump on the bottom. So we can't do a drawer accurate like that. So what I'll do, do I have a case here that I could demonstrate on? Yeah, maybe I can use this. So this was the, what I'm about to show you was, this one's incompleted, but this was the project in the intermediate drawer making workshop. That's not the drawer for this. So in order to get this drawer to fit perfectly, we need to have this flat, and this surface flat, and this surface flat, and this surface flat. Underside here, not so much, but we'd like it. This surface needs to be parallel to that surface. This surface needs to be parallel to that surface. So if there's a discrepancy, more than I can take out with sandpaper on a block, I can use my 10 1/4. This was called a carriage maker, a carriage plane. What's the other names?
Bench rabbit.
Bench rabbiting plane. The 10 1/4, which was Stanley's numbering system, had tilting handles. So the blade goes all the way to both sides. Blade's a little bit wider than the plain body, so if I'm going to be working up against this side, I push that blade over, and then on a piece of steel, force it down like that so that that blade is now flush with that side. I don't want to bust my knuckles, so I would tilt my handles. I actually have the original Stanley too, I bought not that long ago. So lay the handles over like that. This would be secured, and then we could come in here and we would slide that right along. Oh, it doesn't fit. This one doesn't fit in. But if it did fit, we'd work that right along, and you wouldn't want to cut a big deep groove, and you got to be careful because you don't want it to show out here in the front. But we'd use that, or I could lay it up on its side like that if the side was out, and that allows me to get right into the corner, and I would plane that surface until it was flat front to back. Now, cutting across the grain like that, I would then go in with a sanding block. Do we have an example of a sanding block right here, Jake?
The ones we sell?
No, the ones that we use for preparing a case.
They are, I think they're up in that corner by the exotics.
Where? Out here? Okay. That's good. This will work. Thank you. So I make a sanding block out of a big thick piece of wood, joint on the bottom, stick sandpaper to it. In this case, it's I took a sanding belt and cut it and then just tacked it in. And I would use that to go in, and I would go side to side, front to back, until that surface was nice and smooth. And that would give me a good running surface for the sides of the drawer. Because my drawers are designed to actually touch. They should be touching on the bottom and on the sides. Only on the top when a drawer gets out far enough that the gravity causes it to drop down like this and it'll rub against the top a little bit. But you have to always allow for seasonal movement that way. So that's how I incorporate or use the 10 1/4 in prepping a drawer case.
All right. Quickly, how long is the Cosman apron? Most out there seem too long to be practical.
How long is it?
Yes.
$27? From here to the bottom, 27 inches.
Okay. If Rob were to rebuild his tool cabinet saw storage, would he keep the same design for his backsaws?
Uh-huh. Well, I wouldn't change that.
Okay.
That was a question.
Yeah. Yeah. That whole idea behind this is so that you don't waste all the room up above. Tip it like that too. Yeah, and I'm about to go in and finish this section. So that's the prototype phase. Next.
Could you make the dovetail square a little thicker? When I tried it on my Shorebird vise, because of the crubber lining the jaws, the bottom of the square falls down the radius and not on the flat top.
Oh, yeah, sure. That's just comfortable, but yeah, you can make it at a 1/2 inch Baltic birch, no problem. You got to change the dimensions on everything.
Well, another thing,
we have to have longer screws.
he should have the crubber on the movable portion of his vise, right?
Yeah, but didn't he say that the radius? Yeah.
I know, I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
I put like Jake's saying, I put the crubber on the jaw, not on the, that way this is uninterrupted. This is nice and flat, side to side.
Yeah, he has a Shorebird, so it's probably on the end. But you shouldn't put crubber against crubber.
Why?
Well, then it's two soft surfaces squeezing together versus one soft surface
Against the hard
squeezing against the
surface.
firm one.
Yeah. And I don't know why you would need two. One's enough to hold it. Next. If I'm yawning, we played for 1 hour and 15 minutes today, and it was a really good, fast game, so.
Okay. Hey, Rob, I have a bunch of what I believe is Verawood, but the hardwood seller near me is trying to tell me it's Ipe, but it's way darker, and when I cut into it, there's a yellowish powder that comes out. Can you identify it for me?
From here? Let me see into my crystal ball. I'll ask Super Dave to tell me. He knows.
If there's a yellow powder, though.
Yeah, he knows where all the Verawood is in the world. If it's yellow and it turns emerald green, it's Verawood. Ipe doesn't do that. Ipe's a hard, yucky wood. Not anything I would be interested in using, but Verawood, lovely. And the smell too. I don't know what Ipe smells like, but Verawood has a very distinct, pleasant fragrance. So that's an easy way to tell. That's kind of like trying to describe to somebody what the salt tastes like, so can't really tell you, but it's distinct.
Rob, what finish do you use on the case, and runners for your drawers?
What finish?
I think he means the case walls and runners for your drawers.
I use Renaissance wax. for the inside of the case, sides of the drawers, bottom edge of the running surface of the drawers, Renaissance wax. Comes in this little silver tin. It's not cheap, but it's beautiful wax. I use this for finish on my small boxes too. And what I love about it is it tells you right on there, you don't get any more from 3 coats than you get from 1 coat. And you literally wipe it on and wipe it off. It dries as fast as you put it on. So it couldn't be any simpler to put a nice finish. And on small boxes, it just feels like velvet. It's just beautiful stuff. I love it. Of course, it doesn't give you great moisture resistance, but what finish does really. I suppose there are some out there, but they end up looking like they have a 1/4-inch thick piece of glass. Next, Jake.
Peter Monrosa
Hey, Peter.
says, what do they yell on the ice to get you to pass them the puck? Robbie, Causey, or Woody?
Dad!
Okay, are you going to have a plans available for your tool cabinet in your shop available to the public?
Which tool cabinet are we talking about? I'm surrounded by tool cabinets. I got this one. I've got the portable one that we made in the online workshop 12 years ago, and then we've got the new one that we're selling as a fundraiser for the Purple Heart Project. Which, be specific, and I'll tell you. Did we have Maximilian?
I don't think he drew the walnut one.
Did he do the one behind me?
I also don't think he did that.
Oh. Did he do the original?
I also don't think he did. No tool cabinet. He didn't do any tool cabinet.
No. So each year we hire a student, CAD student, to come in and do stuff. And they're not quite ready yet, but
Okay, I got that.
yeah, I don't have an, so I don't have, I can't answer that one for you, but if you can tell me which one you're talking about specifically, I can at least direct you as to where. This one? Yeah, it's everything you see is on the online workshop that you can sign up for, and you have access to everything on there. No limit.
Okay.
That would be a big job to draw all of that, but there would definitely be a market for it. So had this guy been able to do more, we would have had him do more. So that would certainly be something. But I got to get it finished.
Okay. Will the Super 5.5 come with the shooting grip and the adjuster?
It will come. The adjuster is standard equipment on it, and it's a little bit different than the regular one. It's stainless to match the rest of it, and it will be drilled for the grip. You'll order it left or right, but the grip will be sold separately. Unless we want to throw it in. Do we want to throw it in on those first 100?
I don't know.
Probably will.
It's not.
Might.
It's not beneficial because if you already own one, you don't need two.
We could get a stainless version done.
Yeah. 3 times the weight.
It's all right.
Oh, right here. Dominique
Is it Dom?
Chavez
Dom.
would like to know left, right, or both skew block planes.
Oh, well, this is that's actually a good question because the skew block plane is subject to grain direction. So if you're cutting a and you've only got one skew block, then you're fighting it all the way. You have to have the other version in order to go. Now, that having been said, I had left and right, and I ended up selling the left because I rarely ever used it. Most of the time, the surface that you're cutting with a skew block plane is inside of a joint, whether it's a rabbet, well, that's what it would be, a rabbet, and it's going to be buried or part of a joint. So I've never needed I don't ever recall, I don't ever, actually, having just said what I said, I don't think I can ever recall using the right-hand one and saying, oh shoot, I need to go the other way, and switching and grabbing the left. I may have, but it couldn't have been very often or I wouldn't have sold it. I wasn't short of money when I sold it. Good to hear from you, Dom. We had Dom and John and Omar and who am I forgetting?
What are you asking?
There were four Marine EODs that were all wounded and all at Walter Reed Hospital at the same time. Who were the four?
What did you say?
Dom and John and Omar. Great guy. He was in our last class. That was a dandy class. That was one for the...
Oh, no, what happened? Oh, shoot.
What?
Hang on.
Lost a feed? So are we getting audio but no video?
Yeah, just audio.
You want the power source from right behind Ken?
Yeah, Ken, grab me that.
Up above your head, Ken. Not happening? Hey, you know what? That stupid thing, every time it goes up there, that little black thing moves. Yeah. I gotta... Sorry, folks. The battery died on that, so you can still hear me. You just can't see my kisser. Got another question, Jake? Will that come too here shortly?
Yeah, in just a second. No, we don't have any.
We don't have any more questions? All right, well, let's wrap up our business.
$2,100.
$2,100, so we're gonna give away 2 prizes. We're gonna give away 5, because we always give away 3 dead cat sweaters. I need to shout out to Angie. If you don't know, oh wait, I gotta wait for the camera to come on. Tell me when it does. Shout out to Angie. Shout out to Luther and Erica, who drove all the way across the country in their Chevy van to come here, and he worked the drawer making workshop, and then they stayed, and Erica and he both assisted in the last class, and it was a lot of work, and then turn around and drive all the way back to California. Had great assistants this year. Can we name all the assistants we had? We had Ralph, and we had Paul,
Erica.
and Erica,
Tony,
and Tony came over from Australia, Kyle, and
Mark.
Mark.
Smith.
Oh yeah, no, not Mark Smith. No,
Wachowski.
Mark Witowski.
We're back on.
And who else? Oh, and Mike Smrek. That's 7. We got everybody, I think. No, we didn't. Who am I forgetting?
Well, Casper.
Oh, Casper, right? Casper came over from Denmark. Now, forgetting somebody? Casper was April?
Yeah.
Who was May? Tony was May. No.
No, Tony was
No,
June.
Tony was June. Ralph was April,
Oh,
July.
Jordan.
Who? Oh, Jordan, yeah. Jordan was May. And who was in September?
I think that was Mark.
That was Mark Witowski, and then October was, we had 2 classes in October. We named those. Great bunch. So this is Angie. Angie's Ken's cousin. And Angie and her sister Lynn do all the packaging on our Purple Heart t-shirts. A lot of work. We need to make them busier, so it'd be really nice if 50 of you bought a t-shirt, a Purple Heart t-shirt, your choice, 3 different ones tonight. Give Angie a whole bunch of work so she wouldn't be taking time off. And give a shout out to Luther. And need to give a shout out to Kyle over in Newfoundland, because Kyle's a huge help. Are you trying to figure out how to do the draw? Don't leave, you're gonna give some stuff away. What are we gonna give away tonight? Since it was saw night, let's give away saws.
Yeah.
So I'll ask Jake and see what we have lots of. We'll give away 2 saws, do we? What do you need to do?
We have lots of all saws.
All right, so we'll give away 2 saws tonight.
Not hand saws.
No?
Well, I mean, we can, but up to you.
Well, let's give away 2 medium tenons. We'll give away 2 medium tenons tonight. And we'll give away 3 dead cats. And we're waiting for Jake to figure out how to do that. I don't know if any other questions came in. I'm just looking behind me to see if there's anything else that I'm not mentioning that I should.
We'll have to do a giveaway as a YouTube short or something.
Why? Can't figure it out?
We'll have to,
Give us an update. What's going on?
we'll have to do a giveaway as a YouTube short.
How are we going to take the names from
We
tonight?
already have them.
So we have, all right, so we have the names from everybody that's registered tonight. Frick's not here to figure out how to do the draw thing, so we'll do it. And then we'll do a YouTube short to announce the names of 3 dead cat winners and 2 medium tenon saw winners. How's that? Sorry.
And we can notify them, right, with by email?
Yes.
Yeah, that'll
Yeah. So if you win and you don't see the YouTube short, we'll notify you by email. So remember to, don't forget, so the class, let me go back to what I was trying to tell you. So 2026 class schedule, there will be 6 classes and 6 PHP classes, PHP / training the hand. April, May, June, July, September, October. There'll be 1 wood turning class the end of October. Kip Christensen will be here teaching it, and it'll be turning bowls and lidded boxes. And there'll be 1 intermediate drawer making workshop that will be for qualifying PHP students. There'll be 12 spots that they qualify for, all their expenses paid. There'll be 4 spots opened up to civilians. So if you've had this class and you'd like to come do the drawer making class, there's 4 spots only. And we added an extra student to each class. We've got 4 assistants, and we tried it and it worked. So we're going to have 16 in each class. So there will be 7 civilian spots, 7 vet spots that will be awarded, and there will be 9 spots for paying customers. They will go on sale tomorrow. If you want your spot, if you want your choice, you're going to have to buy it right away. 50% deposit with your registration. Balance is due a month before the class. There's some non-refundable stuff in there, so make sure you read all the fine print so that you understand. We rent toolkits. If you're thinking, I don't want to drag my tools all the way across the country, we rent complete toolkit that will allow you to just show up in your shirt and pants, and we'll provide everything else. Meals are included. I could do a whole 2-hour session on the food. It's phenomenal. You will feel like, wow, I went to a food class and they happen to have woodworking on the side. And I think that's everything else covered. So that'll go out on our newsletter, on newsletter. So if you want to find out about this, make sure you go on to RobCosman.com and register for the newsletter. That's how we notify. Anytime we have specials, anytime we have seconds or things like that, it always goes out first to our newsletter people. And I think that's wrap up.
That's all.
Thanks for joining us. Certainly appreciate it. I think our final tally for tonight was we raised $2,100, which was good. Always like to do more, but understand. Anyway, see you in a couple of weeks, and please spread the word about the Purple Heart Project so that we can find those combat wounded soldiers that need our help. Thank you. Is it American Thanksgiving before we go again?
Probably.
And if are we still on?
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving. We're going to have one here because we're all related to an American. Ken's an American. Jake's married to Megan's is an American. So, and any excuse to have another nice turkey meal made by Anita. Anyway, see you.